Welcome to CPG Vibes. No script, just chat. We talk all things food and beverage and so much more. Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review. If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service, or be a guest, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Now your hosts, me, Alex Bear with Genius Juice, and Wade Yeti. All right, welcome to episode 92 of CPG Vibes. Going to make a little logistical change here. There we go. Move Wade over this side. It's like kind of like, this is a bad metaphor, but you know, like couples right on the bed. Not saying we're in the bed together, but same kind of idea is one person's on the left, one person's on the right. We're starting the show off with a bang. It's great. All right, so welcome to our show here. We're enjoying a nice Veterans Day here on Friday, Veterans Day weekend. And then Wade, you're traveling, my friend, aren't you?
I am. I'm currently in Knoxville, Tennessee. We had a beautiful drive over this afternoon through the Smokies. We are seeing one of my favorite performers tonight. I will put the link in the chat because that's who I am.
Okay.
Marcus King.
Cool.
Marcus King. I refer to him as this generation Stevie Ray Vaughan. He's like he's just a spectacular guitarist. And he's here tonight. Actually, I don't know if it was last night and tonight or tonight and tomorrow, 2 sold-out shows here in Knoxville and across the country. He's absolutely amazing. So check him out if you haven't.
Cool. You always have a really good taste for music. I love the videos you text over just on these really great live artists.
Speaking of which, last weekend I was in Wilson, North Carolina. I sent you a video of Michael Jackson tribute. And what did you think of that?
It was interesting. It looked pretty damn realistic, to be honest. It was scary how real that was. I didn't reply because I was so shocked. I'm like, is this actually Michael Jackson?
Yeah,
and I was like a street performer, or where was that?
It was it's a really cool festival in Wilson, North Carolina, which is like an hour plus, about 2 hours away from us. You have to Google it. I'm not gonna do the story justice, but they're these big structures that are built off of scrap metals and different things. And we went last year, had a great time, and so we decided we should go again this year. But all right. Just a good time. Yeah, just Google it. Whirly Gig. It's a weird name. I'm not going to do the story justice. It's fabulous. It's a great festival. So
cool. Well, enjoy. Safe travels. We just want to, before bringing our guest on, we just wanted to mention our ongoing sponsor, which is V Driven. They're a CPG partner for emerging purpose-driven brands. They help with trade spend deductions. They do all that. They help you with accounting. They help you with master sales. They sell your brand into new stores. They know a lot of buyers. Luke Abbott is the CEO and the founder, luke.abbott@vdriven.com. We'll put his email up. Make sure to reach out to him. He will hop on the phone with you. Really, really good guy. So, okay, without further ado, because, she has to cut out a little bit earlier than when the show ends. We want to get as much content as we can and hear from her. So we have on Jenny Stojkovic. I got her last name. Okay. And she is a general partner in Joyful VC, which is one side of what she does. And she's also the founder of the Vegan Women Summit. And we're going to bring her on right now. We're not even going to have any music. We're just going to bring her on, get right to it. So good. Jenny, how you doing?
Hello. I don't have walk-on music. What's the usual walk-on music?
It varies, but honestly, like there's such a limited library here on StreamYard. There's like 9 songs. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? Unless I know it's like the song fits the person really well, I'm not going to play a song. And it's like, I'd rather bring you on without any music.
He's not doing it justice. Usually he beatboxes.
Yeah.
For whatever reason today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we actually have a VWS like playlist on Spotify that we use, and we will do walk on music even virtually. So it sets the vibe.
Totally. Yeah. I think this is a good time to mention that we need to get sponsored so that we can afford more tracks of music on StreamYard. so we can play more music for our guests. So that's a nice little plug there.
Right.
But anyway, so for those that are not, oh, Red Bull, nice. So sponsored by Red Bull, apparently. So for those that are not watching or they're listening in, so Jenny's on the road, so she's in the car, which we've had several guests that have been in the car or traveling in hotels because she's an entrepreneur. So she travels and she sees people. But where are you? Where are you traveling? What's going on?
Totally. So I'm actually on home base today. I am sitting right here in Hollywood. I'm looking at the Capitol Records building right now. I've got a quick meeting and then a red carpet tonight. So anybody that lives down here in LA knows that there's a red carpet almost every single week. So that is why you guys got me in between, but happy to be here.
Awesome. What is the red carpet for? What movie? Or what event?
Yeah, so this one is for an event that I'm helping support. It's actually a plant-based event. This one's going to be really neat. It's an event called Be Kind, and they have basically bought out all of the Reef Magic Box building. So anybody that's an event producer knows the Magic Box. It's, I think, the second biggest venue in Los Angeles. And so they'll be doing an experiential event where there's like 12 different culinary cuisines you can try. So I'm kind of picturing like a plant-based Epcot. We'll see. But really excited to eat. I have not eaten today. So we can talk all things food. I will be getting increasingly hungry as we have the conversation. But I saved my appetite for tonight.
Awesome.
So Jenny, I was gonna say I'm super excited to talk about you and just your journey and the plant-based, the vegan. How did you get to where you are?
Oh boy, y'all want the long story, the short story? We gotta.
The form is yours. It's yours.
Yeah, whatever you want. Whatever you want.
Sure. All right. So very interesting timing, actually, because I was just posting about this yesterday. So my life started off in a very small town in Canada. So if I have any Canadian folks that are tuning in right now, I was born in a small farm town called Alcona, which is like 2 and a bit hours away from Toronto. It was about 2,000 people when I was born. And I basically grew up in small town Canada, surrounded by farms. What I now know are actually, interestingly enough, factory farms. I had no idea at the time. Literally never thought once at all about food, had no interest in food, didn't think about what I ate at all. When I was 23 years old, I had a very life-changing moment that happened to me. My husband's best friend was murdered. It was actually 10 years ago yesterday. So interesting timing on today's pod. And for us, being in our early 20s, going through such a tragic circumstance, first off, there's no guidebook for what happens when something like this happens. You just totally are thrusted into this new world of things, everything from trials and criminal justice system to grief at such a young, early age. And so my husband and I really started to explore, what could we do with this tragedy? And so after a few months of really trying to heal and doing a lot of exploration, we decided to fill ourselves with compassion. And what we did was actually went to the prison and forgave the murderer. And part of that compassionate change that we made was looking at what we were doing in our day-to-day life. And so for us, it was immediately clear that, okay, we're trying to learn from this situation. We're trying to become better people and change who we are. But we're doing something 3 times a day that absolutely does not need to be done. We don't need to cause that kind of suffering. And so for my husband and I, we actually both went vegan. It's been almost a decade now. I built my career in Silicon Valley completely separate from food. So vegan was actually always a passion of mine, but I actually was a tech executive for many, many years. In 2018 or so, I started to see a crack where you could start to kind of see this new next generation of plant-based foods and how they're starting to be treated like technology. And it really started to overlap with the skill set that I had built. And that is really what kind of inspired me to get into the future of food. I really thought we could make the future of food the next big tech industry. I started doing some programming, got to know a lot of those CEOs, became very close with them, eventually launched Vegan Women's Summit in 2020 as a way to bring women professionals into the future of food. We had 250 women in a room in 2020. Then, of course, the pandemic hit. We now have over 100,000 women professionals across 6 continents. I think we were the biggest Future of Food conference this year. We had over 1,200 in New York City, partnered with the mayor of New York. things just really kind of like exploded very, very quickly. And as it turns out, there were many other professionals like me that had these personal passions, but not the ability to kind of bring it into their daily life because their professions perhaps were not being food and beverage founders. You know, if you're not starting a plant-based company, how do you support this ecosystem? And that's really what I've been seeking to accomplish.
Wow. I mean, I read your post, the blog yesterday. So I read at night, and I had to, make sure I was sitting down, focused, and absorbed it. And it took me actually almost 20 minutes to read it because I read it more than once, just going through your thoughts, your feelings, and how much emotion that you really expressed in this blog. So I really didn't know the full story, and it was obviously shocking, really sad. But then you learned so much from this experience, right, on how to handle what you said, right, and I won't get too spiritual in this podcast, but how to handle grief, how to handle challenges, and just get over them, and basically how to face when these things happen in your life, and how to overcome those things and move on and keep going with your life. So anyway, long story short, because I'm rambling, everything that you mentioned about with how you handled it, how you got through it, and how you'll never forget this person ever, but you also have to live your life and stay positive. And that's a really hard balance where there's suffering and grief, but you're also needing to be happy and positive and run your business. So I thought it was a beautiful post. So thank you for sharing that.
I really appreciate that. I try to share it very openly because I believe that for me, we were able to find that catharsis and dedicating our lives to something else beyond just, making money and paying the bills and having a nice house and a car and all of that. We actually really found a depth of the world that we had not had before. I have no idea what my life would have been like if we hadn't gone through this. But I can tell you, I had 4 different people reach out to me yesterday, friends that I knew, and they all had gone through a murder, and I had no idea. So one of them, I had a friend that reached out to me that's little brother was murdered 2 months ago, and they still haven't caught the guy. And he had been suffering in silence and had never had an outlet of anyone to talk to. And so you never know what people are going through. And I think that the more we kind of share these journeys and normalize these crazy things that happen to us that are probably not as rare as we think, right? Like that's the only way that we're going to get through this is if we actually allow people to talk about it and have themselves be heard.
Yeah, there definitely has to be some kind of release, of just sharing it. And I think a lot of people just in general, mental health, right? Just sharing what you're going through and having someone to talk to. And most people, and more on, to me, again, just what I've noticed, more males and females, like, or guys don't like to share, right? We like to keep things inside more. Again, that's not everyone, but that's what I've noticed. And so it's really important just to talk with someone and share what's on your mind, what you're going through. And even like, when I go through my struggles with whether it's anxiety, right? Or like just business struggles, financial struggles, it's very hard in CPG right now. So everyone's struggling with that. I find just reaching out to people, whether it's Adam Brown, Mark Samuel, all the, these LinkedIn people, yourself, right, that are in the CPG space, and you can share this, and people really understand where we're coming from because they've been through it or they're going through it. I think that's really valuable. And I just instantly after sharing it, I feel better. It's not like the problem solved, but I feel better and I feel more positive and my spirits are up. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of building community, because if we're building these products that are supposed to be better for people, better for, we say people, planet, and animals, in the work that we do at Joyful, it's at the end of the day, that's what it's about, isn't it? Right? Like it's about building that community. It's about building a higher consciousness around the way that we're living our lives. So you're not just going to the store and buying, the same old stuff that's going to make you sick, that's making the planet sick, that's bad for all sorts of different people. So why don't we actually lead with that heart when it comes to building better for you brands? I think that is the authenticity, like you mentioned, folks like Mark and I have done calls. Maybe Mark, you're listening here. Like he's like the biggest meat eater I know, and I'm probably the biggest plant-based person that he knows. But like we still have like such a connection because we both have that shared interest in people and improving their lives, right?
Exactly. And I think, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here, and I really want to go into the vegan women's summit, right? Because I remember your first event was in LA, right? I believe, wasn't it?
That was our first like big one. We did a very small one right before the pandemic in San Francisco, but it was only
Okay.
250 women. And then when we came back from the pandemic, we had in 2022 over 800 in Los Angeles. So it really kind of hit the map then.
Yeah. And I just going back to it, like, yeah, I remember when you were having that event, we weren't able to go that weekend to be a sponsor, right? We had a conflict, but to have someone like yourself bringing the community together, listening to people and really supporting people, like that's what we need right now. We just need support and love going through a lot of hardships, and especially a founder, any founder, right, in CPG, even the big ones are feeling it right now. And so like having that place of understanding. And one thing I wanted to add too, that I felt you really hit on that was great, is like we have no idea what people are going through, and that's in personal and also in business. And I've really learned it's been very hard to not take things personally. It's very hard. Like honestly, like I take things personally if someone criticizes my business, criticize the way I ran something, or if they say this product's not good, I put my heart into it. But I'm learning now that someone else is going through their own thing and they have an opinion, and I'm not going to try to change their opinion, but all I can really control is how I react to what's happening around me. So that's been, to me, the biggest mental health booster, is not taking things so hard and personal, even though I've dedicated my life to, I have a family and there's many other important things in my life. But on the business side, I've dedicated my life to Genius Juice for the last 10 years. So that's what I learned. And I tell other founders that because I also do advising, right? And when I say something to them, I'm saying it to them not to hurt their feelings. I'm saying it to them so they can be better, so they can improve their business, improve the way they run their business. And some people misconstrue that as being too hard on them, but I'd rather tell them the truth and be honest. So going back to this community and what you're building with the Vegan Women's Summit, what have you seen as the major effects and the results of doing this show year after year, as far as feedback, as far as gaining members, as far as the awareness around this? Tell us more about what some of the results have been.
It's been so interesting, I must say. So VWS, we're, just to take a step back, so we're a media and events platform. We actually do quite a few different programs. So there's the big summit, the Vegan Women's Summit that everybody knows. It'll be in Hollywood in May this year, by the way. If anyone wants to be a part of it, hopefully you're not busy for that weekend. It is also the only pitch competition for women in the space. So a couple of weeks ago, we had VWS Pathfinder that many folks that were here on LinkedIn join. It's the only pitch competition for women founders in the future of food as well. We've had, since launching, we've done 4 pitch competitions, and we've had over 1,400 women pitch from 31 countries. So like just that in itself is such an incredible statistic that it still surprises me, because thinking about how little women get funded, right? So last year it was less than 2% of all venture capital went towards women founders. And the fact that we've uncovered, 1,400 of them shows that we clearly have like a pretty big pipeline problem. There are other problems that are happening that are blocking women from getting VC. It's everything from the networking gap, which we work to bring all the VCs in to meet all of these women founders. But it's also, for myself, becoming a VC, I've been on the other side of this now. There's also a huge knowledge gap and lack of awareness of these roles for women, right? So there's no go to school to be a VC. For me, growing up, I saw Shark Tank, or Dragon's Den as it was called up in Canada. And that was my only concept of what an investor was. The idea of investing a company, pitching, things like that. That was not a life that I would have had. Most of my classmates are working at the local Honda plant, right now. I was destined for a very different life that I, have been very fortunate to break into something else. And so just like being able to create awareness for women to become founders, how to talk to investors, become investors, has been such an interesting experience. Over the last few years, we've seen a really big shift of more and more women founders coming with really sophisticated, good companies. Like real, like you can see that there has definitely been a shift in women getting into the space and getting that formal awareness and education, I think, for building future of food companies. And I say that everything from CPG all the way to, biotechnology, like actual ingredients and things like that. We've also noticed our audience is now 60% non-vegan at Vegan Women's Summit, and about 20% men as well. So we've noticed the audience actually is diversified quite tremendously over the last few years. And that's the most exciting part to me. And I'll take a pause after this for a second. I don't want people to see veganism as a binary of you either are vegan or aren't, right? I want everyone to see that everybody buys vegan products. Everybody eats vegan foods. You have a choice, you have a choice 100 times a day of what product you buy, and you can buy the plant-based one, the sustainable one. How do I teach you how to do that? And so for us, Vegan Women's Summit has really become this 360-degree experience for people to come and buy cactus leather boots and get a cruelty-free makeover and test drive a Tesla and try cultivated meat. It's kind of this full encompassing ecosystem where you can kind of live and taste and feel the future for just one day. And that is probably the most exciting thing for me in these last few years, is how many non-vegans are coming to be a part of that.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm a vegan myself. I'm a vegetarian myself. I was a vegan for about 6 years. And one thing I've learned is that, you can do both, right? It doesn't have to be as intense. Some people, are more intense about like only vegan all the time. That's fine because that's their lifestyle. But there's so many foods that taste amazing that are vegan that you can get at basically any restaurant, right? And it's being more catered that way. So I want to go back to, you're mentioning earlier just about women being underfunded and how there's steps to change that, right? What has happened in the last 3 to 4 years to change that? How is it continually evolving? And where do you still see some of the challenges are for women to get funded?
This could be a topic in itself for sure, right? So there was a lot more women that were funded a couple years ago because there was a lot more money in general, right? So the VC space, anybody that has spent 2 seconds paying attention to it knows that like VC kind of went off a cliff, right? So we did see an uptick of women getting funded. It was 3% 2 years ago, and then now it's dropped down to less than 2%. I think the increase in capital being available just innately brought more founders out. Both women and, Black, brown, other underrepresented founders, they just kind of across the board became more represented as a result. Now that the money's getting tight, they're getting less represented. So that effect, unfortunately, has started to kind of dwindle. You're seeing a lot more programs targeting women founders in particular. There was a lot of accelerators that are focused specifically on women or underrepresented founders that were launched. Certainly Target was pretty well known for doing this with their supplier diversity and their accelerator. I don't know to what extent the stickiness will be of some of these now that the economy has changed, because I have started to hear that there are some cancellations of programs like that, but definitely getting brands slotted. You saw a lot of retail folks focusing specifically on women founded brands. You also saw, I am seeing a lot more women get into VC. So we're still only about 5% or so, but there's all of these programs now that are designed specifically to train women to become venture capitalists. There's actually the first like all women VC summit that just took place in San Francisco this week, which is pretty exciting. So I think that the dedicated programming for women founders and women investors is certainly starting to show, but the longer term change of educating I think our youth more than anything to know about these career possibilities and what it means is going to take a lot longer, right? It's like how we've been trying to increase Black students in STEM. Like that's been almost 30 years that they've been working on that pipeline. So I think there's going to need to be a longer trail for a more robust pipeline.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, all things take time in general, and just it's about just having a shift in consciousness and realizing, that this is happening. That's really the first steps. I think the awareness is important. And I wanted to shift to Joyful VC, right? And you're a general partner with them. What was the and Wade asked some question early on about how did you arrive where you are now? We got into some some conversations relating to that, but I wanted to go more high level. Like, when did you create this? Why? I think I know the why, but we'll ask you anyway, the why. And how big is the fund? And then what investments have you done so far?
Absolutely. So we had our first close, my partner Milo and I, last November. So we're about a year old officially, which has been really interesting because we basically picked the worst time in my entire generation to raise a fund. Good job us. We really have been deep into looking at so many companies over this last year. Our fund is 23 and a bit right now. Our fund target is 25, so we're about 95% fully funded, which is great. We're
Congratulations.
fundraising.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're technically allowed to accept more funding for the next 12 months, according to the SEC. And I am actually allowed to talk about this and promote it because we are incorporated as a 506c, which is the social media fund. So I'm allowed to promote it publicly. Yay. If folks are interested in getting involved in our fund, our lowest check size is about 25,000. So we're really trying to make it accessible to other folks in the industry. We have made 4 investments, almost 5. We're just waiting on the paperwork for number 5, and have really been focusing on identifying some of the most unique aspects of the supply chain and finding high value opportunities for being able to remove animals from the system. So our focus is really specifically on creating a more sustainable food system, and to us that means moving towards everything from plant-based mycelium to future food technologies like molecular farming, cultivated meat, improving crops, ag technology, all ways to move towards a more sustainable way to produce protein. So we do some CPG investing. We also do tech investing. We kind of look at the broader bucket of what are all of those levers that are going to change the way people eat, all the way from seed to mouth. And that is kind of the broadness of our thesis. We invest geographically agnostic, so anywhere around the world. Our investments have, they're in 3 or 4 different countries actually. We're 80% women founders currently in our portfolio, which is pretty cool as well. We are the only fund with a dedicated commitment to at least 50% of our deals being in underrepresented founders, which we're basically like blowing out of the water handily without even trying, because to be completely honest, like the best companies, the most resilient companies we're seeing right now are often the underrepresented founders who have had to survive with less funding. So they're actually, doing a lot better in this tighter environment, and they're a lot scrappier in our experience, which has, been an interesting challenge. Looking at 350 deals over the last year. We've also seen a lot of companies go under, a lot of distressed deals, which has been really sad to see. A lot of desperate founders. It is a little heartbreaking, I must say, to have to turn down so many founders that I know that were kind of like their last pitch. And that's the thing I wasn't prepared for, honestly. The heartbreak of seeing how many founders that we have had to like emotionally let down has been challenging.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, because I talk to them, now and then, right? Or they reach out to me on LinkedIn where they're basically out of cash,
Yep.
and it's kind of a catch-22, right? Where I'm sure you've had conversations where you love the founders, right? Like you love this person and what they stand for, and they're like like a freedom fighter. They're gonna die on the hill to represent their brand and grow their brand, but they're also like down to no cash, and so like
Yeah.
from an investment, from a lens of personal, emotionally, like there's a part of it's like I want to help this person, but then there's the the business end side and reporting to your LPs and your partners that have put money in, where you have a responsibility to invest where they're not going to run out of cash in 3 months or 6 months. So that's kind of that's it's pretty simple decision once you look at the numbers, right?
Yeah. And, one of the things I always tell myself is, my job is to show that we can create real, robust returns in building a better food system, right? Like at the end of the day, that is what I am doing as the GP. And so I need to be as smart as possible about the companies we invest in, because it will really be indicative of whether people believe in the broader category, right? We need to find those returns. We need to to get underneath the surface and find the diamonds in the rough to actually be able to make a viable industry. My friend Peter McGinnis, the CEO of Impossible, he's always said to me, I love this quote. He said, "The scariest thing in the world to the meat industry is a profitable plant-based business." And I fully agree with him. That is what we need to be thinking about. We have had this excessive last peak of VC that I think has taken away that level of scrappiness that we saw with the post 2008 companies. And I'm sure, you both have been in this long enough. Like, people used to be a lot scrappier than they are today. And so I think that kind of inflated, frothy market allowed a lot of founders to get really, really comfy. And that's not going to cut it anymore.
Yep, exactly right. I mean, from the other side, and Wade, I want to kind of pull you into this from the just from the retail side, right? General strategy, right? Are you still seeing smaller brands entering, applying? Or is it more just the big brands that are like, I want to go from 10 SKUs to 13 SKUs, so I'm gonna, which is fine. I mean, there's brands I love like Olipop that do that, right? That they want to expand their set and they have new innovations and money behind them. What is the environment like from your side, Wade?
There's so much going on. I look at it through somewhat jaded glasses, right? So plant-based on everything, right? It's almost overused at this point. It's almost like like plant. I'm trying to think of an example, and
It's like
and my mind's
gluten-free
kind of
or one
cloudy.
of those gluten-free or
It's somewhat overused, right?
keto.
And actually, what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask Jenny is, because just being fully transparent, I don't think there's any. So we've got Jenny, who's a vegan, we got Alex, who's a vegetarian, and myself, who is just Wade. But what I wanted to ask Jenny about was where you see, like, as a person living the lifestyle, and remove yourself from the VC, from who you are professionally, just personally, where do you see the business going? Where do you see these trends? Because from my perspective, when you look at Impossible, you look at Beyond, you look at some of these other things, those numbers are declining and reducing so drastically. And I think there's so many people that are looking for more transparency with what's in the food and being real, right? Like I think of speaking for what we carry currently, like actual veggies. Like, you can see what's in that product. It's clean. It's actual vegetables. It's a clean ingredient deck. Where do you see, or what do you look for yourself as far as products when you're in a retail store?
Oh, man. All right. There's a lot to say on this topic, and I'm sure anyone that follows me knows I write a lot about, the consumer aspect and what's going on right now with plant-based. So, me as a consumer, I have been vegan for quite a long time. I'm also in California. I'm very active. So I look at levels of macronutrients that I think your average American doesn't, right? So I always think about, there's like me, Jenny, who's living in Los Angeles and eats all of these weird foods that my family's never heard of. And then I picture my dad in small town Canada, and like, my dad is the litmus test for like the standard consumer. I just had him stay with me for a week, and I watched what he ate, and it's so different than me. So for myself, I eat primarily, I meal prep every week. I eat, meaty cutlets, tofu, chickpea pasta, white rice, bonza, things like that. I eat a lot of veggies and a lot of legumes and tofu. I'll eat some vegan meats like once or twice a week. I'll cut up like, Gardein strips. So sometimes I'll have like Impossible sausages, things like that. But I generally eat, more intuitively and more healthy than the average consumer. Now, the average consumer is a different person. The average American eats 3 hamburgers a week. Okay. The number one selling meat in North America is the chicken nugget.
Mm-hmm.
So the world that we're living is very, very different in this space. And the way that consumers are acting is very different. I think that what we had happen when we peaked in 2018 and 2019 with the Beyond Meat IPO was we were really riding this very positive wave of, you know, more than anything, like people were feeling that vegan and plant-based was cool, it was sexy, it was fun. All the people that look good, that, you know, are successful are doing it. And so you had this huge bubble. And in 2019 also, you know, that is when they spent $5 million, CCF, you know, Consumer Freedom, spent $5 million creating a synthetic meat Super Bowl ad. And that bubble got popped and people started thinking about, oh, well, what are these products? Are they actually better for me? Um, the average consumer doesn't actually look at ingredients, but when it comes to the consumer thinking about how do I move myself off status quo, all of a sudden that intention changes quite a lot. And so we need to actually be really, really conscious about if we're moving them off of eating the Tyson that they've grown up eating all the time, there has to be a really strong value proposition to do that. For a lot of people, I think it was health. Now that people don't necessarily think it's healthier, I mean, obviously the data shows it is still healthier, but their perception is that it's not healthier. Then people see it as a sacrifice. On top of that, there's a 20% premium on plant-based meat. It's more expensive. And the taste is not quite there, certainly for some of the plant-based products that are out there. I've had some that I will literally spit out. So now it's not even tastier. So it's like, I'm not losing weight. I am paying more money for this. And it's also not as good as the chicken that I was going to buy. And that is kind of like the trifecta that we're dealing with. This is only to plant-based meat, though. One thing I do like to point out, plant-based dairy just hit 44% household penetration. We're on track for more than 50% of homes in America having plant-based dairy, which is, you know, a few decades old category. So plant-based is not a monolithic thing. We're talking about very specific segment of meats. There are so many other segments that are doing very, very well, growing extremely well as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely, I know you're short on time here, but this could be a whole other, this could be a whole other conversation where you're definitely right, where a lot of the attention and mostly negative attention has been towards, you know, the Beyond Meats and all that stuff, right? Just to call one brand out, right? And I'm not saying it's a terrible product. I don't eat the product. That doesn't mean that it's not, it's terrible. But there's been so much progress on other sides. Like oat milk is a really good example. Almond milk is a really good example. You know, Forager, one of my favorite brands, you know, they have the plant-based everything, right? They have cheese, they have butter, and they make it taste good. But I think like that is definitely affecting the growth of plant-based to the average consumer, to speak honestly, as even as a vegetarian, because most people they look at the bad news, not the good news. Unfortunately, they look at the headlines, right?
Well, might I add, Alex, people love good news about their bad behavior. So let's just let's just put that out there for everyone. So it's the same reason why turns out wine doesn't kill you. Those things go viral. Turns out eating chocolate every day, great. You know, turns out plant-based meats, they're not as good for you. Keep eating meat, right? So like there's also a consumer kind of, you know, the consumer's predisposed to want that information versus the other, right?
Yeah, there's some ignorance there for sure. So I think like, you know, we had Miyoko on about, I think 2 months ago, Wade, or 3 months ago. And I asked her a question, like, how would you convince a meat eater, right, to eat plant-based? And she's like, I would cook for them, you know, like basically they would just eat a really good meal that's very tasty. And so typically, you know, with my friends that are meat eaters, if I want to go out and eat with them and I can't go to, you know, Ruth's Chris, right, steakhouse, I take them to, you know, Sage, right, which, you know, or Cafe Gratitude, which tastes really good and it's really healthy and you feel really good after eating it, which is a great combination. So I think it's just a matter of people trying it and going out, eating it, you know, that's it.
Yeah, of course, you know, you're going to get people through their belly, not their heart or their mind when it comes to this, right? Like that's reality. And I think for people to understand that many people in this world, particularly in North America, food is a vacation for them away from their life. It is a way to self-soothe the trauma in their life. We have many illnesses that are showing that the way that we are using food is in an extremely unhealthy way in this country, right? So when you are thinking about why is it that people eat the way they eat, you know, you have to think of like, how do I fulfill that same thing? And so I see so many brands make the mistake of putting these like complex carbon footprints on the front and like all of these like crazy wonky details. And it says nothing about like what the consumer is actually going to get when they buy the product. And I see this in both plant-based and otherwise. You know, there's one particular protein powder that was a precision fermentation protein powder that had like all of the water footprint and all of the land footprint, all these statistics on the front, but nowhere did it say like how much BCAAs or leucine or the actual things you're looking for when you buy protein powder. So I think people need to remember that people buy food for me. I buy food for me. You know, I pick up a package and it's anywhere from what, like 6 to 13 seconds. You look at a package in a grocery store and I think me. So when you are making a product, you need to tell the consumer immediately what good they get out of it. There's a reason why we have this fast food nation, because people literally feel good for the 3 minutes that they're eating the Whopper in their lunchtime break. You know, that is their escape away from what their reality is. And so I think there is a world where there's the healthier, better for you foods that give people that aspiration. I also think there is a world where we just quite simply hide and swap out and put, you know, plant-based junk food too. I firmly believe that, because taste has a very important component, and there are a lot of people that are eating for taste right now as well. So it's not an either or, it's both to me.
Jenny,
I have one last question
think,
after you, Wade, very quick, but go ahead.
Good. I was going to say, so what do you think the biggest challenge is of moving these plant-based vegan foods to the masses? What's the barrier? What's the guardrail stopping from moving it everywhere?
There's a lot. Price continues to be a big problem, right? So they're more expensive and they don't taste as good. I think from a scalability perspective, we need to really think about what the most scalable alternative proteins are. I'm really excited about mycelium. I buy meaty all the time, actually. I think that I'm actually looking at a mycelium deal right now at Joyful. I think that there's a lot of scalable, high quality proteins out there that are going to be able to beat their animal counterparts. And so very quickly, consumers change when price comes into the situation. We've never had lower cost plant-based meats, but we do know with NAMI, the North American Meat Institute, they do their Power of Meat report. It came out in April of this year. We know that the top reasons why people are buying less meat is because they cannot afford it. And you know, the second one is they're scared of the processing. Go figure. We just had a conversation about how plant-based meats are too processed. It's also the top reason why people are scared of their meat. And so if we can get it cheaper, I think that that will help with wide scale applications. Certainly your food services like your hospitals, your prisons, your universities, your elementary schools. The National School Lunch Program is a $15 billion industry that's basically completely Pepsi Cola and Tyson chicken nuggets. I think that if you can swap a nugget that is 2 cents cheaper for the US public school system, that is not chicken, but is something else, they'll probably do it. We know that. Neither of the top 2 fast food joints in the United States test positive for more than 50% meat in their nuggets right now. So they're kind of already doing it. So I actually think firmly that price is a huge aspect. And I think that we need to probably also look into the blended products as well. It's something that I've learned a lot about. I think that blending will help to bring the consumer back into a more plant-based palate in a way that is going to be, you know, increasingly more digestible for people. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, but I just think, you know, in general, like my only short answer is it just takes time. Like to me, it's just
for sure.
Like, and what you've seen and what I've seen and what Wade has seen, being, you know, we're all like in CPG for at least 5 years, 10 years plus, Wade more, but I don't want to date you. Like we're seeing, if you take a snapshot at a Vaughn's or Pavilions 10 years ago, right, and then take that same snapshot and that same shelf today, the changes are insanely huge. And like even the fact that like with the root beer from Olipop selling more than A&W this year, like that's fucking awesome. And like, so I like how it's heading in that direction. I like how like my dad, you know, when I bring over Olipop from Ralph's or something, you know, and he's there with his Snapple, I take the Snapple out of his hand. I give him, you know, a ginger ale or something from Olipop or whatever it is. And I just, you know, again, like that's, I do too. That to me is really good progress. So I think it's like you said, it's heading in a great direction. It just takes a long time, because even when I go to like Hermosa Beach, Vons, and I look at what people put on those belts, as you see, right? Even in LA, right, where people have a lot of money, highly educated,
Yeah.
we still have a ways to go, but at the same time, we made a ton of progress.
I totally agree with that. And I filmed a documentary for ARTE, which is like one of the biggest, it's like the NPR of Europe, a few months ago, and it was on the water crisis. And we filmed outside of the In-N-Out near my house in LA, and could not count the amount of Maseratis and $100,000 plus cars that were going through that drive-through.
Rich people go in and out,
Yeah, well, one thing I'll just kind of leave everybody with is there's a misconception when it comes to that aspect of it. The higher income Americans eat more fast food. Like, that's a reality. There's this kind of misconception that if you have less money, you're eating more fast food, and the more money you have, the less fast food you eat. But that's not true. People that have more money are eating more fast food. They eat like 20-30% more fast food than people that have less money. And Starbucks is now the top 2 fast food joint in the United States behind McDonald's. So when we think about why people eat, they can talk about the processing, they can talk about, the ingredient list, all of that, but the data doesn't lie of how people are eating. And I think that's something we really kind of just need to grapple with and never lose sight of, that like people are eating based on taste.
Exactly. There's also, I think putting their career before their own health. That's another thing too.
I think for me, I think that there's 2 obstacles, and Jenny, you touched on obviously on the price aspect, but I think the other obstacle is taste. I mean, just quite frankly, if you look at going back 5, 6, 10, I don't know how many years ago, cheese, right? Vegan cheese was awful. It was absolutely terrible, right? And it's
like plastic.
It's come so far now, right? And I think those are the two. If you can get past the price and you can get past the taste, I think it'll appeal more to the masses, because I don't think it's a matter of people wanting to eat a certain way or not eat a certain way. I think it's like, well, this just doesn't taste like that, right? So if we can get past that price barrier, we can pass the taste barrier. I think that's where we'll be off the races.
Yeah. The last thing I'll leave you all with, and I realize I need to hop out and you need to do your next piece of the pod, is just like, there's a lot of consumer surveys out there of how people say they want to eat, but go look at the actual consumer dollars that are spent, because you will find yourself very surprised very often of the way, people are actually shopping. All you need to go is hop over to the Vons or the Ralphs or the Safeway or, the Sobeys or wherever you might be, and you can see that the way people are really shopping might differ quite a lot than what the polls tell you.
People, what they say and what they do, 2 different things.
Always. Awesome.
Jenny, it's been awesome having you on and sharing all this, and you're amazing. And I love everything you've done. So we're just in awe of all the accomplishments. And as you are, you're very proud of yourself, and you should be. You've done a lot.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciated joining. Can't wait for the next one. Hope to see y'all in Hollywood. And keep on keeping on. We will slowly but surely change the way that we eat. We have changed things many times before, and we can do it again.
When is that event you said in Hollywood? Tell us one more time.
Yeah. Okay, I'll plug one more time. The Vegan Women's Summit is coming to Hollywood May 9th and 10th. It's going to be the biggest feature of food, fashion, beauty, technology, sustainability event. We've got everything from we're actually selling more plant-based makeup brands right now. Our vegan beauty is like going through the roof for next year. But yeah, if brands want to be a part of it, feel free to shoot me a DM. It's going to be the most fun event of the year. If you've never been, it's kind of like South by Southwest, but for the future of food. So
love it. Love
awesome.
it. All right. Well, have a good red carpet tonight.
See you all soon.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Jenny.
All right. So we wanted to also just quickly say, because we didn't say it in the beginning, if you'd like to be a sponsor, right, on our show, make sure to email cpgvibes100@gmail.com. And then also, if you'd like to be a guest, and we're kind of mixing up the format a little more, Wade, right? We're still having guests on, but not as many guests. And we're going to be debuting some new programs in the new year to really give back to the CPG community as much as possible. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, so cool. So we go to our next segment, stuff we love. We can do that real quick, and then we'll go to Friday freebies. And I'm going to give out a freebie from my side, so I'm going to make that happen.
Yours.
All right. Great. So, what do you? I know you're in a a hotel right now, but do you have anything? I saw you're drinking something. Was that that was the Red Bull, right?
It's a Red Bull. It's a Red Bull.
So it is. Maybe that's the stuff you love this week because you have it on you, right?
I was gonna say I'm limited this week.
Yeah. All right. So for me, I'm pretty limited as well. I just want to grab this and show it because I want to grab this and show it because this is from last year, but this was to me the best yogurt I've ever had. Nice. The Halloween, we just had Halloween, right, about a week and a half ago, so it's kind of timely. I'm a little bit late, but they put an entire Hue bar in the yogurt. It was nutty and it worked. You know, you just literally open the jar, you open the top, you see the bar on the top just peeking out of the yogurt. Whole Hue bar in there. So that's my stuff we love, and then I've been drinking the GT kombucha Synergy.
I was going to say love. I'm limited. I'm drinking Red Bull sugar free. We don't need to show that. I don't have anything in front of me right now. You know, the one thing I would say, and I wish I did have it in front of me. Excuse me, but the Danos cheesening. Mm-hmm. You know, we had those guys on the show a little while ago, but the cheesening with the Parmesan cheese, and it's absolutely spectacular. We love.
I've not had that yet.
So
okay,
yeah,
I'll check it out.
It's fantastic, fantastic. Yep.
Okay, that's Danos, and then shout out to Tyler, right? Our man Tyler out there.
Tyler and Dan, yeah.
And Dan, and they're out in Louisville, right? I believe they're in Kentucky.
Yep.
Filming their TikTok, videos and shorts from I think Dan's whatever extended kitchen, right? Part of his house, I believe. So that's pretty cool, right there.
Right.
All right. Absolutely. So now we have Friday freebies.
Friday freebies.
Okay, so I'm going to give away a case of our Genius shots, and it's going to be the new coffee.
Wow, big spender.
Yep. So we've had our chocolate raspberry. We have a new flavor, which is our coffee, which has 100 milligrams of caffeine. It has functional mushrooms in there. It has cacao in there. It has B vitamins, L-theanine. You basically will be flying after drinking one of these in a very calming way. You're not going to be spiked. Red Bull kind of spikes you, right? You're not going to lie, right? It kind of spikes you. So, we're not being sponsored by them. We can tell the truth. Like it's not a bad energy drink, but there's better ways of getting energy out there, right? So 100%. So the Genius shot, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. And for those that don't know what it looks like, this is what it looks like right here. We'll be giving that out. So one case. So I wrote down a question, but Wade, I before I even jump to it, do you have a question on your side? Because usually I take the question. I do the question every week.
No, you do the question. What I'm going to do, Alex, is I'm going to talk about V-Driven one more time, just because they're a CPG partner for emerging purpose-driven brands, and they fuel growth and innovation by providing strategies and support in every phase of the retail journey, from leadership, coaching, brand management, accounting, sales strategy, day-to-day tactical support. I need to take a breath. They can be the end-to-end solution for the brand's business needs. Their leadership team, headed by Luke, has decades of real-life experience in all the key areas of business, and they know what it takes to help brands succeed. So vdriven.com, I think the link was up there earlier. I'll put it in again, but great folks. They're an ongoing sponsor. I don't have a question, Alex. I just want to make sure we hit those guys one more time. As Kenny says,
go ahead.
Luke is the man, right?
Absolutely.
So
he's definitely
you got
the man.
The question. I'm counting on you. You know what I will do, Alex, is I will help you out with that little
selecting
link
the winner
right there.
Oh, that one.
That link right there.
Better.
Look at that.
Cool. Love it. All right. Hopefully it works. I know we have our site under construction, so hopefully that link works.
It came up for
to
me.
be honest.
It came up for me right now. I can buy a 12 pack. I can buy a 24 pack. I can buy a 36 pack. You name it, I can buy it.
Nice. All right. So you found it, even though it's under construction. Wow. You hacked into the system. All right. So go to that link. You can check it out. So, all right. So the question, very simple, is basically the very first Vegan Women's Summit that Jenny had, our guest that was just on here, had a certain number of people. What was the number in attendance? The very first event that she had for Vegan Women.
I know that number,
Summit.
and I could use some shots. I know that number, but I'm not going to answer.
We should have one episode where anyone can answer. Even I can answer my own question and just keep the shots.
Exactly.
Because I ask questions typically. I don't know the answer. I'm just kidding. That's usually, yeah. Anyway, I won't be there. Someone get it?
We got a couple answers in there. Is that we're getting there?
It's a little bit, Katie, you're warm, but it's more, a little higher. No, Kenny, that was the second event.
I was going to say, if we're playing hot and cold, Katie is hot. Namik is cold.
Very cold.
Kenny's very cold. Dean is cold.
There it is. Julie got it. 250 people. All right. Yep. Someone had their genius shot this morning. There we go. Julie had it. All right. So 250, that is the answer. Make sure to email CPG Vibes 100. There, Kenny came in right after. So Julie wins by a nose there. So make sure email cpgvibes100@gmail.com. And I will get a case of our coffee out on Monday to you to arrive, pending any errors by FedEx. Our partners at FedEx will arrive by Wednesday. So there you go. Not the first time someone called me cold. LOL. That's Kenny. All right. Funny. Oh, man. What a shout out here. I got to shout this guy out. Ryan Reich. He was I met him at Total Corporate Solutions when I was there about over 10 years ago. He was a VP there for IT, and he now has his own company. Shout out to him, Cloud Consulting Services, I believe. And nice. So, Ryan, good to see you again. It's like goes from winter's past, right?
So Alex, if we're shouting out, I have to shout out Katie, because Katie is one of the Fresh Market store managers in Greensboro.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it's great to see her. I think she was on last week. It's great to see her here now. She does a great job for us. She's been at both of our Greensboro stores, so I'm glad she's able to jump on here and throw some feedback in.
Awesome. Right. Hey, Katie, nice to meet you. All right. In Greensboro, I've been to that store because I remember, I drove out there. One of my family members was raised there. So drove out there, and we did go to a Fresh Market in Greensboro. Is there more than one in Greensboro?
There's two. There's two in Greensboro. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the one I went to was kind of a smaller format, I remember. It wasn't huge, but
we gotta get you back out.
Yep. Get me back now. Yeah. All right. Well, Wade, travel safely, enjoy the concert, and then I have a golf tournament tomorrow. So anyone who wants to stop by and see the balls fly into the bushes and over people's heads, you're welcome to stop by. It's at Los Verdes Golf Course. Literally, I'm telling you where I'm going to be. So you're welcome to stop by. Los Verdes Golf Course, 10 a.m. teeing off. And what's really funny about the first tee is that if you pulled, it's I don't know why they designed the course this way, right? I love Los Verdes. It's in Palos Verdes. It's one of the best public golf courses in all of Los Angeles. It's amazing, and it's affordable. It's ocean view, panoramic, near the cliffs of Palos Verdes. And there's this one hole where you see the entire. I'll send you a picture tomorrow. You see the entire ocean. You see Catalina and you're right on the cliff. It's hole number 15. And about 3 months ago, they put up a net, so that balls didn't go over the cliff because their house is down there. And I wouldn't say it ruined the view, but it's not the same, right? It's a net you can see through, like a batting cage net, but it's just not the same. And the reason they put the fence up it wasn't because people that were playing were hitting it over the green, over the cliff. What do you think it was? people intentionally hitting the
I'm-
ball over the cliff, like putting the
Imagine
balls literally on the tee box the wrong way on hole 16, which is right near 15, the green with the panoramic view, and just literally looking over the cliff where there's like a Trader Joe's. There's thousands of houses and people walking and just hitting balls, just like nonchalantly.
Jeez.
So now they have a fence there,
Jeez.
and so there's probably 4 punks that ruined it for thousands of members there. So anyway, that's the tournament tomorrow. It's our last tournament of the year. I played earlier this week to practice. I played really well, but then I played terrible the other day. So it's a funny game. One day you're great, the next day you're terrible.
So I mentioned, Alex, we're going to a show tonight. I put the show in that we're going to tonight, but tomorrow, since you brought up what you're doing tomorrow, we are actually headed to another show in Asheville, and we're going to see Southern Culture on the Skids. What's your favorite Southern Culture on the Skids song, Alex?
I would have to say Mumford and Sons, I Will Wait. I don't know what that is. What is it?
There's the link. There's the link. Check it out. It's what I would call almost like rockabilly. They've been around, honestly, at this point almost for 40 years. But we're excited to go to Asheville. You know, it's a long weekend. It's Veterans Day weekend. I took a vacation day today, so we're in Knoxville today. We're headed to Asheville tomorrow and check in with all of our Asheville people. But Alex, check that link out. I'm sure I'll send you some videos so that you don't feel left out. But it should be a good time. It should be a good time. We're really looking forward to seeing these guys tomorrow because it's just gonna be a fun time. And speaking of which, a fun time. If I'm looking at this calendar correctly, Alex, we don't have a guest as of today, right now. We don't have a guest next week. So I may or may not. We're going to do one of two things. Either you and I are going to go old school the way we used to, just you and I, and just talk about things. Or I might dig into my bag of tricks and come up with a few friends to bring on the show next week.
When you say a few friends, can you specify? Are these like like the J guys friends, like the Jimbo guys?
They could be J guys. They could be. I see Kenny here. I think
the
Kenny
guy.
He might be. There's no. I'm gonna dig in my bag of tricks. Let's see what we can do next week.
Okay, this could be really special.
And I was gonna say, and I'd be remiss. Remember, for those of you on the West Coast, I'm going to be out there in 3 weeks. I'm going to be at Nosh Live. I'll be speaking. I'll be doing the pitch slam. I'll be taking buyers meetings. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of my West Coast friends. I haven't plugged it much yet, but that's going to be coming here real quick in the next week or so. I'm going to be plugging quite a bit, but I'm going to be back in California looking to connect out. So I'm going to be on that startup CPG boat, whatever Daniel has got worked up. I don't know. I'm going to bring a life jacket because I'm kind of scared. But I'm looking forward to being back there and seeing a lot of my friends from the West Coast.
When is the startup CPG boat event? Where's that?
It's so Daniel is doing a sunset boat party. So it's gonna start right after. I'll find the link here. It's right after the event ends on Friday. I'm trying to get the link here. I'm
the Nosh event.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So he's doing it right after that. It's sponsored by obviously Startup CPG and LA Libations. I'm stuttering because I see LA Vibrations and as well as Libations. So Danny Stepper, all our friends over there. So I'm really super excited about it because it's going to be a good opportunity to connect with so many people that I met either on LinkedIn or while I was out there on the West Coast. So I'm going to put the link here real quick. There it is. If it comes through, boom. There it is.
Boom.
Yeah. And so it's right after the Notch Live event ends on Friday. They're doing this sunset boat party. I think it's 2 hours Friday night. My flight back to North Carolina is leaving. It's a red eye. So I'm going to spend some time connecting with various people on this event that I didn't catch at Nosh Live. So it should be fun. So if you haven't, Alex, I'm sure we could probably get you a life preserver or two and maybe a seat on that boat if you're interested. It should be fun. It's like 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Friday night, 3 weeks from today.
Yeah, I mean Friday, December 1st. I'll check my schedule, which will most likely be wide open during that time. It's like, let me see.
Alex, actually, we could do because I'll be there. Well, I'll actually be at the Nosh Live event during the time we normally do the show. So we might have to figure out how we can do a live show on a boat. We've never done that.
Live show on a boat. Wow.
Yeah.
Those are some big claims. Okay, well, we got to get reception on the boat.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a stationary boat or is it going to sea?
I feel like
I think it's going to be stationary, isn't it? Or yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We got 3 weeks.
We don't know.
We got 3 weeks to figure it out.
So there could be a show from the boat. And honestly, I mean, I'm just going to we're going to one up each other here. Paint the town red. Like after the boat docks and the boat thing, we do the boat thing. That's over. There's also downtown. We got the downtown Marina del Rey, right? No, but we can definitely find some local places to have a drink, hang out, chat more. That could be something we can do. We can throw that up on the board.
As long as you get me on the plane around midnight Friday night, I'm good.
You have a plane at midnight?
Oh, it's a red eye. It's a true red eye. It's a true red eye.
The flight literally ends. It leaves at midnight.
It leaves at midnight. I get back.
That's going to be hard then.
Yeah. It goes into Atlanta. And then to Greensboro. I think I get back home around 8 a.m., 8 or 9 a.m. Saturday morning. So it's a true red eye.
Yeah, you're going to need some genius shots. I think you should have been the winner for that one.
I've got a couple weeks to figure it out.
Yeah. I'll get some genius boost shots to you as well. So you can have like the Red Bull in one hand and then the genius shots in the other. Just don't put the chocolate in the Red Bull. That might not taste very good. Maybe it does. Who knows? So interesting. Okay. So Friday, December 1st on the boat. So I think I got to check with my family, but if I can make it, I will make it. You're making it, obviously. That would be a lot of fun. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's what's going on. All right. So we'll see you next week, the usual time and place. And also, I think we also want to address the Friday of Thanksgiving, which is November 24th. We will be unavailable for that, I imagine, right?
We will be. And in fact, Alex, I will be in California then as well. We're flying out to visit our daughter. So yes, we'll take it. We'll talk about it next week. I'm sure we're going to take that one off. I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. We got to have some time off here. I mean, if we were getting paid and getting more sponsorships, we'd do more shows.
You said it. I thought it. You said it.
Yeah, I just had to come out and say it. I'm too honest. So sponsor our show, cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Boom. All right. So that is it. Great guest, great conversation. You got your fill for plant-based this week. You're going to go out and buy a Beyond Meat burger, right, Wade, for the concert? And
yes.
Hopefully, I mean, plant-based is beer. Yeah, beer is plant-based, has hops. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's the show. We'll see you next Friday, 2:30, 5:30 Eastern. Wade, enjoy. Travel safe on that red eye. And if we have red eyes on Monday, we all know why.
All right. I'll send you some pics, buddy.
Got it. All right. Enjoy. Take care.
See you.